Well, good morning. Welcome to GLBC Connections. We're glad that we can connect this way. It's a little way that we hope encourages you. I started this video a few times now already. The first time, or the second time I did it, I forgot to turn the microphone on, and so it would have been an opportunity for you to practice your lip reading skills, but fortunately I realized it, I stopped, turned it on, and started over. And so that idea of what good would my devotional be if you couldn't hear it, that idea is important to Mark chapter 4, where we look today, verses 13 through 20. And Mark frames this passage with some key ideas about hearing, and he ends with this phrase, "He who has ears to hear, let him hear," as he tells the parable of the sower. And that's really helpful to us as we come to the passage with unique perspective. And so we're not in the story, we're not there, obviously, right? We come at it and we see how people respond in the Gospel of Mark, and we see how the disciples are learning and understanding more and more, and we get to watch this, and we get to read this, and we get to understand all of this, and we're put in a unique place by God's grace to come to the Gospel of Mark and learn about who Jesus is, and come to these points of responding to him, having watched other people respond and learn from that. And so as we come to this parable of the sower, the call for us from God and the Holy Spirit is to have ears to hear, to be listening. And it's important to see that a lot of times we look at the parable of the sower and we think about it in terms of immediate gospel conversion, immediate moments where you hear about Jesus and you respond to him. And that it is that, but it's so much more than that. It's about an ongoing, persistent faithfulness in hearing and listening and following Jesus. That this is not a one and done, but this is about having a heart that's directed towards Christ for the long haul, and being faithful to him. So as we come with that perspective to the gospel, we have four key soils, four key ideas. The first one is in verse 13, and this is the interpretation that Jesus gives of the stories of the sower. So this is later on after he met with the crowds. Now he's meeting with the disciples, and they say, "Let us, help us understand." And Jesus says this, "Then Jesus said to them, 'Don't you understand this parable? How then will you understand any parable?'" Which is interesting. Like Jesus, you're telling this parable, and these are your insiders. And so I just think there's a moment of real grace and to us as we go on this journey, that we don't always get it sometimes, but we keep pursuing Christ. But here's what he says: "The farmer sows the word. Some people are like seed along the path where the word is sown. As soon as they hear it, Satan comes and takes away the word that was sown to them." I think that's the first thing is very important to see, is that Satan is at work in the world to steal away the truth of who Jesus is. There is opposition. There are people, and there is trouble in the world that goes against, that attacks who Jesus is. And so there were Jews in this context who would chase him all around Israel and end up taking him to the cross. So this idea that Satan is prowling and causing trouble. The second soil is in verse 16. "Others, like seed sown on rocky places, hear the word and at once receive it with joy. But since they have no root, they last only a short time. When trouble or persecution comes because of the word, they quickly fall away." And so as we look in the Gospel of Mark, there's already separation that's beginning to happen, because there are those who are persecuting, who stand against who Jesus is. And so the warning as we read the gospel is that we see these people who aren't staying loyal to Jesus because it's hard, right? Because there's opposition, and they fall away. Verse 18, still others, like seed sown among thorns, hear the word, but the worries of this life and the deceitfulness of wealth and the desire for other things comes in and choke the word, making it unfruitful. Wow, that's an important one for us as we think about our own lives. The deceitfulness of wealth, the worries of life. There's two sides of the same coin. It's the worries of life, not getting the things we want and need, and the other side, the deceitfulness of wealth, of pursuing of these things that we think make us happy and secure. And so the seed comes and people fall away because of money, because of things, and they don't follow Christ because of that. We see that with Judas, right? He betrays Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. We don't want to be that. And then finally, verse 20, others, like seed sown on good soil, hear the word, accept it, and produce a crop, some 30, some 60, some 100 times what was sown. And so the call to us today, as we think about the Gospel of Mark and the message of who Jesus is to consider whether we're being hearers and followers and doers of the word, or are we going to hear the message of Jesus Christ and turn from it? Will other things draw us away? Will we follow or will we not follow? And again, that's not just about a one-time gospel moment. That's about perseverance. That's about walking with Jesus faithfully over our lifetimes. He's so patient with us, and he's so kind and gracious. This is not about perfection, but this is about having ears to hear and responding to Jesus and doing that in an ongoing way. So I hope Mark chapter 4 encourages you today to, as we read the gospel, think about how we're responding to Jesus. Take care. God bless.